Patrick Cook here. Welcome to session number 3 of why we create Mandelbulb 3D art. Okay? In the last session, session 2, I was talking about I was talking about clipping, but we're not trying to do a big tutorial on the Mandelbulb 3D. I was showing the problem of clipping because I wanted to illustrate that this is a process of discovery. You tweak the formulas and the formula properties, you combine the formulas, you try things and you run it and you see if it works. Sometimes it doesn't technically work, such as this clipping right in here. It doesn't technically work, but then most of the time you'll find that the graphic just simply doesn't work. But you have unlimited graphical possibilities by the way you combine the formulas, the formula modes, alternate, interpolate, decombinate. Those are modes. All right. You got 400 different formulas, and you can even write your own formulas. So you have an unlimited number of possibilities. Now, that means that your graphic outcomes are not predictable, which means that you are in a position of experimenting, testing, playing, tweaking until something really cool happens. And that is the really neat thing about this Mandelbulb. Let me just take a minute. And explain why I enjoy the Mandelbulb 3D art. It is precisely because I never quite know what I'm going to get. I never do. You know, let me do a little bit of a sidetrack story here and kind of help you kind of see my position on this whole thing. A lot of people don't like unpredictability. They just don't. Look, you sit down, you want to make a 3D model, and you want to replicate something in the real world, real space. Okay, whatever it might be, a car. And you sit down to an application like Blender, and your goal is to replicate that 3D model and, you know, put an artistic positioning, angle, you know, that you like. All right. But you're trying to replicate a 3D environment, a three-dimensional real world environment. And that's cool. There's a lot of value to that, and people can get engrossed in that and just have a wonderful time. All right. The Mandelbulb 3D generative art is a different process of fun. It's a fun where you're setting the stage for the software to run and combine formulas and you see what happens. You are not fully in control, as you might be with 3D modeling. All right, or maybe you're interested in 3D modeling of landscapes. Okay, and landscapes, as you know, are very random. But you want to get to a point where the landscape is familiar. All right. I've done some landscape modeling. I had a ball with it. I just don't have enough time to do all this stuff. But now, with the Mandelbulb art, you don't know what you're going to get. All right. And now that can be a blessing or a curse. It really depends upon your point of view. If you're the type of person, or you have a need, all right, to produce or to model something that exists, then you certainly have the tools to do that. The Mandelbulb 3D does not model anything that exists. It just doesn't. It's not supposed to, and it doesn't. All right. Let's just come in here and let's tweak something. Okay. Let's move in on that. All right, now let's put that to main, see what we get. The human mind will try to associate what it knows to that picture there. Oh, you know, bulbs floating in space, little windows. All right, interesting little shapes. Doesn't really mean anything to me. All right, so look, the Mandelbulb 3D application is generative art. It is not intended to model anything, and you are not in control. You have an influence. You can decide the formulas and stuff like that, but you're not in control, and you don't know what you're going to get. Like I said a few minutes ago, that's either a blessing or a curse. If you go into generative art thinking that you're in control, you've only created a situation for yourself where you're going to be very frustrated with the art form. And I go back to what I was saying earlier in session 1, where this is a process of discovery. Right? Now, and it really is that. You discover. You get to tweak. You get to decide what your properties are going to be. You get some visual of what that's going to look like here on the screen in your navigator. Okay. All right. And you get to kind of play with it. Man, okay, I like it. It's interesting. Now you say, what can I do with it? What can I do with it? What story can I tell? Is there a story in this? I'm going to talk about finding stories a little later on in this series. But what I wanted to do is I want to leave you with this thought in this session. All right? This is a process of discovery. You set the stage, the software does the work. You look at it, you accept it, you reject it. You reject it, you go tweak the formulas, you go do something else. Or you just completely abandon the project and wipe the whole thing out, restart Mandelbulb, and just start fresh. You don't know where you're going, and that's a blessing or a curse. Okay? It's a curse if you think you know where you're going, and the software is fighting you all the time because the software is generative. It's not there to try to help you replicate the real world. All right? It's up to you to accept or reject the outcome. If you accept it or you think you're accepting it, you need to find the story in it. If you reject it and you move on. And it's okay to move on, and I'll tell you why. It's okay to move on because you have an infinite number of graphics that will be created. Let's take this one here for just 30 seconds. So what can I do with that? Well, I could fly around it. I could animate it. It's boring as a still, but I could probably fly around it in an animation if I felt that the work of making the animation was worth it. All right. But, or I might say, well, geez, what can I do with this? Well, what if I slide? Oh, look at that. I blew it away. Yeah, there we go. All right, so what if I come in on it? Okay. What if I slide down a bit? You see, what if I go forward? What if I look down? Let's look down a little bit. Okay, let me come forward more. I'm going to look down some more here. Okay, now let's push that up to main. And do I have anything here? It's up to me to decide whether or not I see a story in that. This is the art of discovery. Okay? All right, so let's end this session here. I'll see you in session number 4. We'll continue our discussion of this why we create Mandelbulb 3D art. I'll see you there.